Hi, I'm Russ. This is Emily. You might recognize my hands from most of the videos on this channel. And today we're here to talk about Lo-fi pedals. Lo-fi is really incredible because it's really about kind of chasing the imperfections of a past medium. And there's something so special about trying to kind of go back, right? Whether it's about nostalgia or whether it's about just kind of a grainy, kind of textural quality. So today we're going to be looking at mine and Emily's 5 favorite effects pedals that can give you a lo-fi sound. There's a lot of options out there right now when you're looking for that perfect lo-fi sound that matches what you need. And it's really not about finding the best one objectively, it's about finding the one that works for what you need. For consistency's sake, we're going to be sending the same exact harp recording through all 5 of these pedals to showcase the differences and the strengths and subtle nuances of each one. We chose a really simple chord progression on harp to send through these so it can kind of speak to a wider variety of instruments and doesn't really get too into the timbre of the harp as an instrument, and it's really kind of something generic, really, so we can look at these pedals in a consistent environment, because a lot of the demos we have on this channel showcase what kind of playing works best with the pedal, but now we're really honing in on what does each one do in the same context, and how does that help us decide which one's right for us. First, we're going to be looking at the Cooper Effects Generation Loss, and Cooper Effects is one of my personal favorite effects companies, and this is the 3rd version of this pedal. This is the Generation Loss V2, and before it came the Gen Loss V1 and the Chase Bliss Audio limited edition collaboration that you can find on reverb.com for probably about $2,000. I would wait until you can find one of these slightly above market price. They sell out really quick, and for good reason too. It has a really distinct character to it. On the more extreme side of kind of this warbly tape lo-fi modulation and kind of playing with the pitch and kind of noise. And it just really does an incredible job. It's definitely not for everybody, but if it's for you, you'll know. There's really a wonderful character about the pitch fluctuation that's happening here. The wow and flutter knobs are really going to be responsible for that. Then you have your filtering. So the noise knob to the left is going to give you a consistent white noise. To the right, there's going to be noise with a little bit more of a character to it, a little bit more of a clipping voice. In the center, no noise. Gen controls the sample rate, a little more clear to the right, a little more distorted as you get to the left. And then you have your wet and dry signal. Now we're going to look at Caroline Guitar Company's Somersault Lo-Fi Modulator. My favorite thing about this is holding it in my hand, it just feels like a really well-built pedal. Like, it's got a nice weight to it. This is the first pedal we've actually tried from this company, and I kind of want to get my hands on more. I just like holding it. So right off the bat, you can tell the pitch fluctuation is a lot more consistent here. You got your standard controls for that. Depth, rate, and this nice little havoc button that maxes out the rate. There's a tone toggle that puts a high pass on the signal, but if you really want that lo-fi sound, you max out the mix. This is the Xevex Instant Lo-Fi Junkie, and I have a lot of fun with this one. There's really kind of a lot to discover, and it does a couple of things really, really well, but I find that there's a little bit of noise that you kind of can't get rid of, but it's part of the aesthetic, so if that is something that you're kind of willing to insert into your sound, then it's definitely a really good pick. But overall, it's a really good time and a fun pedal, and I like it. So everything's pretty straightforward on this one. You got your volume, your tone, depth, speed. You got a little toggle for the waveform selector. What really brings the lo-fi is this center knob. To the right is lo-fi, to the left is a compressor. This one is probably the easiest to nail those sounds you hear in your standard run-of-the-mill lo-fi music. And it also is the one that kind of gets the most intense with that filter. Hungry Robot, Wardenclyffe. This is an earlier version of the pedal. The V2, the smaller enclosure, came out almost immediately after we bought this. And the one thing for me is that it's kind of large. It takes up a lot of real estate on your board. It's a little clunky, but it's got a really nice sound and a really nice character to it. This one's the newest of the bunch, so I'm not as experienced with this one, but there's a couple of functions that are really cool. There's a lot of opportunity for more extreme kind of pitch fluctuation and modulation. And it's a good time. So this toggles between LFO and glitch. With glitch, you'll find a lot more extreme pitch fluctuations, similar to that of like a rainbow machine or something a little bit more drastic. So we're going to stick with LFO. This changes the filter from high pass to low pass. I'll slow it down a bit. Change the depth. And this toggle is really kind of wonderful because it adds some ambience. Just turn our dry mix down. Fairfield Circuitry, Shallow Water. This one was one of the most requested pedals for us to try on the channel, and we finally got around to it recently. Finally got our hands on one. Really cool, really bare bones design. Each of these little letters is hand stamped, and just taking the time to hand stamp each letter on the pedal instead of having a printed graphic mass-produced is really kind of human and wonderful, and it also speaks to how the pedal behaves in a really human and almost like unpredictable way, where you don't know if it has a mind of its own or not. Shallow Water's kind of random modulation creates some incredibly human moments where sometimes it feels like the instrument is modulating itself without any aid. Sometimes a modulation can align with a single string hit to sound like a bend. And there's also this really wonderful low pass gate. If we turn it clockwise, you can hear some extreme filtering, almost like we're underwater. So there's a lot more options when you start to dive into things like lo-fi delay, like Chase Bliss Audio Thermae or Demodash T120. But that's definitely for another time.